Welcome, everybody, again to the Fixed Ops Mastermind. This is a We Are Week, Women Educating in Automotive Retention and Excellence. I am joined this week by my co-host, Kaylee Filio, and our three terrific guests, Felicia Barr, Gretchen Seidel, and Melissa Marlatt. Thank you all for being here. This week is brought to you by our sponsor, Parts Edge. Your parts department is the backbone of your dealership and is responsible for nearly half of your total profits, according to NADA. Our system works within your DMS for a hybrid approach that combines the precision of automation with the nuanced decision-making of parts experts. Thank you, Parts Edge. And now we will get into the show. Our show is broken up into three segments. The first segment today is going to be why automotive? Why did everybody here choose automotive? Segment 2 is going to be about working together as techs, leaders, partners, women and men inside the dealership realm. And segment 3, which will close out our show, is how do we open this industry up to more women? And so with that, I turn it over to Kaylee Filio to get us started.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be interviewing you guys. This is fun. And this is my first time co-hosting this show. So, and I think it's a couple of your guys' first times going live. So this is going to be fun.
We know you'll do amazing, Kaylee. We cannot wait.
You guys are going to do amazing too. And this is going to be fun. So we'll start with just what attracted you guys to the industry and just kind of go down the list. So yeah, let's start with, now my screen went away.
Technology.
Start with Felicia. Let's go. Yeah, down the list.
All right. Hello, I'm Felicia, and I am a service director of the Batera Auto Group. What attracted me to the automotive industry, it honestly happened by chance. I was 25 years old, didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I had a friend who was a general manager of a dealership and said, why don't you just do this part-time, be a service greeter? And I guess what attracted me to stay was just all the opportunities for advancement. Every day was different and it was fast-paced, and I really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that. There's so many opportunities. It's
yes.
Amazing. What about you, Gretchen?
Oh boy. Okay. So since we don't have a full hour to talk about what got me in here, right? So bringing it down. So for me, officially, hi, Gretchen Seidel, automotive SME expert. I talk to all kinds of people on all types of things, but what attracted me to the industry, it's a weird story. So Dave, you and I are going to have a moment with these other ladies may not be able to understand. I was a single mom and I needed a job that had health insurance because I was waitressing. I was banquet waitressing, and I went to the newspaper. I opened up the newspaper and I circled an ad that said title clerk needed, no experience necessary. And it was at a Buick and Hyundai dealership. So like you, Felicia, I just kind of fell into it. I showed up at the dealership. Gentleman, then their general manager, talked to me for all of 45 seconds. And it is true. No experience was needed. Hired me on the spot, took me back to the office, introduced me to the comptroller and said, hey, here's your new title clerk. 30 odd years later, I'm still here. I'm still here.
Gretchen, how do you circle an ad on your phone?
I know, right? And it's like, when I tell people that, I'm like, oh yeah, it was in the newspaper. Like you used to get a Sharpie and you'd circle and then you'd get dressed and you'd show up at the place of employment. You'd introduce yourself. Yeah.
Man,
I may have just shown my age, Kaylee.
That's okay. It's changed so much now, though. And we can get into that, like how we can open it up more to get more women and how things have changed. But I want to hear about Melissa.
Yeah, mine was by chance too. I was working in the mortgage industry, and then 2008 happened and I found myself looking for a job. I just happened to know someone who was working for IntelliCheck. And so just as a get me by till I found something permanent, I started making phone calls for them, and that something semi-permanent stayed to permanent. So 16 years later, here I am. And I kind of just kept making my way up in the company, and it was just, it's home for me. It was an instant fit. I went from not knowing anything about the automotive industry. I barely knew anything about the car I was driving to now I feel like I'm a service expert.
I feel like the industry should be called the by accident industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody. I don't think anybody intentionally chooses automotive.
No, Dave,
Fall
I don't
into
think,
it.
yeah. Especially
don't.
women. I don't know if women intentionally choose automotive. As you can tell, the three of us, and we just fell into it.
Yeah, I fell into it too. I even tried to leave and I came back. So
Yep, same.
yeah. So I want to talk about some challenges as leaders in the industry. What are some victories and some challenges that you guys have gone through since you've been in the industry? And we'll go from the bottom up, maybe. We'll start with Melissa.
Challenges. I've been very fortunate. I work for a small company and I've had a great boss through the years. So I haven't had many challenges as a woman, and he led me to advance very quickly, and he was a great mentor to me. As far as victories, I think just every day is a victory, right? Every deal we close, every deadline we make, we celebrate it.
That's amazing. And what about you, Gretchen?
Oh, challenges. Unfortunately for me, since it's been 30 odd years, the challenge list is very long, right? When you first get into the industry, and everyone in the dealership, right? There are no females except for in the accounting office. All the females worked in the accounting office. So I was in accounting, but I didn't want to stay in accounting. I wanted to do other things. So it was difficult for me in the beginning of my career, and very challenging to find women that were in actually sales positions or within the finance office. I wanted to be a finance manager. Like, that was my love. So trying to find those types of women to be able to influence me and mentor me, huge challenge. Challenge.
I could see that. And I have one quick question too. What about finance? What were you attracted to? Like,
I loved the art of the deal, because back then it was calling, right? So you were calling your buyers, you were talking to customers, you were actually like really negotiating rate. Now, this is before there was a 2-point cap, right? 200 basis points. You could put 600, 700 basis points on a contract, but we won't talk about that. That's for another conversation, right? But I loved the art of the deal, the actually pulling all the pieces together to help a customer get into a vehicle that they wanted. There's just something super just special about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Felicia, what about you? Is there any challenges and things and victories?
Yes. So for the challenges, just right from the beginning, I started off as a service greeter, and I remember wanting to be a service advisor and really like pushing for it. And they would hire a lot of other people, and I would watch them come in and leave and come in and leave. And then eventually I got the opportunity to be a service advisor. And I remember doing that for a while and wanting more. And I actually left the dealership. I've been at one dealership my whole career. So I've been here 11 years now, but I left for 5 months. And I remember leaving because I thought that they would never make me a manager. I'm never going to be able to grow, and I don't want to be a service advisor forever. And I left, and they asked me to come back. And when I came back, they made me the service manager. But I remember like having to really like fight and prove myself. And I don't know if it was more because I was a woman, because I was young at the time, but it was definitely a struggle. But it was worth it. It was definitely worth it.
Yeah, it's totally worth it. You've been there 11 years and look at you now.
Yeah.
So
and that's the victories. That's the victories. That's the victories,
That's the victory.
Being promoted and every day, hitting the goals that they set for me and exceeding them. And that's it's like a natural high that I love. Like, give me a goal and I want to get it, and I want to beat it, and I want to be the best at it. Yeah.
I love that.
Felicia also had the additional challenge of having to work with me at one point.
I want to hear about that. How was
different stores, but same auto group for 5 years. So
yes, but honestly, I'm not just saying that because he's here, but he was one of the only. There was a couple of people that would help me. Other people just dismissed me, and Dave really helped me. I consider him somebody that kind of always had my back and would just teach me. I could ask him any questions. He didn't make me feel stupid for asking them. And he was always just a good motivator for me. So thank you, Dave. It was great working with him. It was.
Thank you
I
for
love
that.
that.
Well, she was my driver because she was the one who was providing the competition within the group. So
Yes, that's awesome. I was gonna say that's probably what attracted you to that role is, the challenge to like always do more and do better. I'm assuming.
Yes, no, definitely. And to prove myself, like I can do this. I think seeing no women, right? They're just in the office working in accounting. I was scared, but I was like, you know what? I can do this. And I had people telling me like, you can do this. It doesn't matter like your experience. You just got to keep trying. And I just kept trying and I kept learning and I developed a very thick skin. But it all worked itself out.
Yeah, it's Kaylee. Do you mind if I tag on something with Felicia?
Yeah,
go right ahead.
So Felicia, I love that you shared that story because the similarities with a lot of women. So when I was in the accounting office, right, like you're in the service drive as a greeter, you want to become an advisor. I want to go into finance, and the barrier that you had to get through, the challenge to actually get to there. And just to add to that, that our careers are a little bit further apart, but yet almost the same. I actually had to start selling cars. On Saturdays, I would greet customers too, right? In the sales department, I'd go to sell cars, but I could only deliver them after 5 o'clock during the week because I was in the accounting office and pushing to prove myself that like, hey, I can do this, as I had a full-time job in the accounting office as the title clerk and then accounts receivable. But then after 5 o'clock, I was allowed to deliver my customers, or I could split the deal. So it's very interesting. I thank you for sharing because it reminded me of my journey and then how alike they are, even though we're further apart, in our careers where we are.
Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting.
It is.
The first time, and this is I've said this before that I'll attach the word shame to it, but ashamed that this never dawned on me before. But Kerry Wise from WOCAN had said to me in an interview that there were no mentors that looked like me, right? And as a white male, that never dawned on me. I had mentors everywhere in the dealership, right? Everybody was, and you guys didn't have that. You didn't have that advantage of you maybe had people who were there willing to help you and mentor you, but nobody that could completely understand where you were coming from, and the struggle that was different from having to overcome some things that a bunch of the men in the dealership didn't have to overcome.
Yeah.
And we're talking several years ago, but do you feel like we're still dealing with that and going through these types of things as females in dealerships?
Just not.
Okay.
I don't want to talk. I'm like, yeah, maybe.
What advice do we give women that are coming into the industry on, obviously the challenge is the fuel, but, it shouldn't be as hard for us too, in a way, right? So
yeah.
What advice?
I think it's getting better than when I first started. I have a counter and I have, female advisors. So you see more female advisors. We have female salespeople, but I think it's all in the ownership too. My owner, he gave me that opportunity. He believed in me, in a sense, he stuck his neck out for me in hopes, that it would work out, which it did, and so did my fixed ops director. So I think it all depends on who's like above and if they can eventually change the way they think. And I think a lot of people are changing. I don't know, I'm in New England, so I feel like it's maybe different than other places. I'm not sure.
That's true.
Yeah, that male allyship, right? Like Dave was talking, you're talking about Dave, Felicia, and the way, he was a person for you and then getting a chance, but now you're in the position, you can build that team of women, right? Kaylee, to that point of, creating that atmosphere moving forward.
Yeah. And what do you do if you find yourself in a dealership that the leadership is, the barrier and not, you could leave, but we don't want people to leave and completely get out of the industry. too. So, let's see. What about the favorite part of the industry? Do we have any? What's your favorite thing about the industry? We'll start with Melissa.
Well, me being on the corporate side of things and the vendor side, I think sales has been my favorite thing. Interacting with clients and hearing what they're trying to accomplish and building programs to meet their needs. You know, every time I speak to a client, it's something different because it's an ever-changing industry. So that seems to be my favorite part, is getting into the sales. I don't get to do the dealership one-on-one as much, but that's the corporate side. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I would say that's my favorite too.
Is it? Yeah. Well,
because I'm more on the vendor side too. Well, I am on the vendor side. Okay,
it's
Gretchen.
getting creative, right? You have to get creative, listening to what they're trying to do and what they need, and it doesn't always fit what our standard is, and so we have to get creative every day to build stuff around what they want.
Absolutely. And if you think about just the overall, there's just so much being thrown at someone running a dealership or a service department or parts department where, yeah, they're running 1,000 miles. How do you say that? 1,000 miles a minute or however you know what I'm trying to say. Gretchen, what's your favorite part about the industry?
As I've been racing through my head, I'm like, okay, OEM, right? Dealership, TPA, direct agency model. Like what is, and I'm like, oh, we might have to segment down to like a specific, because like in a dealership, I love retail. And so share a quick story. Just yesterday, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who is not in retail anymore, such as I'm not either. However, I'm visiting a store next week for 2 days. And I cannot wait because my favorite part of a dealership, right, in the industry is waking up with the dealership. You know, like the sales guys come in at like, you know what, 8:30, 8:45, they have their meeting, but everything's real quiet unless you get to the service drive. So you got to be on the service drive like 6:30, 6:45 in the morning. You get your coffee. And my favorite part of a retail dealership is watching the dealership wake up. So next time in Massachusetts, I think I'm going to go see Felicia, and I'm going to go, you know, open up the dealership with her so I can just sit with my coffee and just like feel the energy come off the drive, because that is the best. That's the best.
It's quite a dealership to wake up, because she is.
You're welcome anytime.
Operation.
I'm going to tell you, I have my daughter lives in the DC area, so it's only a just short jaunt to get to Massachusetts.
And you painted such a like beautiful picture. Like the story of that is just like, I'm like, I want to go and do that every day.
We're all coming to see you, Felicia.
You guys are welcome to come.
So, hey, Dave, you're going to put together like some sort of program for Felicia, Melissa, and I, you know, to get together with Kaylee, and we'll bring the baby, and we're going to go to Massachusetts, right?
Yeah, we are on the road.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah. And I can put him on my lap. I don't have to buy a ticket for him on the plane. So he's still got
I can hold him. It's okay. Don't worry.
You guys got to find somewhere for Felicia to go so she can get away.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
I have 3 kids.
I'm close to Sedona. That's a great place to go visit.
Oh, I would love to. Yes. I'm down for that.
Yeah.
Right. Felicia, how about you? Your favorite part?
I would say my favorite part, it's changed. I used to love like when a customer was upset and like, you know, the advisor was like, oh, they're so mad, I need you to talk to them. And I would love going over and being able to like diffuse the situation. Like from the customer yelling at me to them leaving, laughing, and, you know, thanking me for helping them. So definitely helping people, but it's kind of changed now more to watching my employees grow. So I work with a lot of students from co-ops. So watching them graduate high school to then, you know, becoming employees here full time, and watching them get their toolbox, you know, get apartments, get houses, have kids. So watching people create a career here and knowing that I've been a part of it, I love that. It's just one of the best feelings, I think, and my favorite part of my job and managing people, because it's not always the easiest, but that gives me the joy and keeps me wanting to wake up in the morning and come to work.
Yeah, that's one of the greatest things is when you've moved to that point in your career where you now get to help others progress in their careers and see them from coming in as the green kids that, you know, don't know the difference between an oil change and an air
Yeah.
filter to now
real.
having their own families, and they've moved up into service advisor roles or manager roles and things.
Mhm.
That's an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
So would you say now's the time for the quote and the stat of the week, Dave?
Certainly, whichever one you'd like to do, you call it out.
What, I have to do it? I thought you were doing it.
No, you can tell me which you want to quote or you want to stat.
I want a quote.
All right. The quote of the week is brought to you by Parts Edge, and it is failure is not fatal. The ability to learn from what it is makes a difference. And that is from Anjali Kumari. Again, Parts Edge bringing you the quote of the week. And that takes us into segment 2, which was working together, from techs and leaders working together, from the partners, Kaylee, Melissa, Gretchen side of the business, working with dealerships, and men and women working together within the dealership and within that partner dealership relationship. And when I say partner, it's vendor, but we prefer partner as opposed to vendor. So just so everybody understands that. Haley, back to you.
I love how you pointed that out. It's a partnership.
Trusted partner.
Trusted partner.
There you go.
I love it. Okay, so then let's focus on, you know, servicing the customers. You know, where is the industry lacking, both in male and female? So what are some areas that we could be working on and we're lacking in servicing our customers? And so let's start with Gretchen. We'll go in the middle.
All right. So where are we lacking? The first thing that pops into my head, Kaylee, it's personalization and communication. We in the industry have a really hard time communicating with our customers, not only in a transparent way, but in a timely way in all facets of the dealership, between variable, between fixed operations. We have to do better as it pertains to our communication because we lose people.
We do.
Yeah.
Let's go down. I have questions, but let's go down the list. Melissa, what about you? Where are we lacking in servicing our
I'm going to have to go with, you know, my expertise is pricing transparency, because pricing transparency, you know, builds trust in your customers, especially when it comes to servicing women, right? Because women are intimidated going into a dealer or any repair shop. It's been known that we have been I've taken my car to be serviced, and I have been quoted obscene amounts of money for services I know my vehicle doesn't need, because they really thought that I was going to fall for that. So if I was able to go online and see what their prices are, I would know I'm not being won over to buy them just because I'm a woman. So I think transparency in your pricing is one of the key things, especially when you're servicing women.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pricing is huge, especially with women.
Yeah.
Felicia, what about you?
I would say consistency. So along with communication, but I think the turnover in dealerships and with customers, they want to see the same people. They want to get the same service every time. And I see it. We get too busy. We don't update them. We don't do a video. We don't let them know what's going on, or it's a different advisor because they left. So like with the turnover not being consistent enough, I think that's where customers feel like they're just going to go to a different dealer, or they're going to go to a mom and pop shop because they feel like they're being taken advantage of, or they don't really know what's going on because we're not consistent enough in our processes.
Yeah, that's a good point. So communication, consistency, pricing. I would like to add or question of just, you know, how do we meet the customers where they want to be met? Because I think there's so many different ways to communicate and ways to show the information with all of the technology that we have, and just meeting them where they want to be met and not assuming they want to be delivered the certain ways that they want to be delivered, the messages. So I want to bring up social media, because that's a huge, it's huge right now. And so I think a lot of you guys are doing social media really well, podcasting, all of that. So Felicia, I want to start with you and just talking about how because I think you do a really good job with Facebook and Instagram about your dealership. So maybe any information that you could share for people that want to do more, or how are you doing it all?
I don't know, but I asked myself the other day. Yeah, but for me, it's become such a habit and it's so easy. I mean, I'm on my phone when I get out of work scrolling, and I know what I like to see. So I like to show a lot of, what we're doing in the service department. It makes us like humanized to our customers. They see, our shop foreman and how many years he's been here and that he's appreciated. I think, as a customer, I like seeing that. I want to go to a place where I know that the employees are taken care of. So we like to showcase that, we take care of our employees here. We appreciate them. They are certified. They do all their training. We like to show like cool upfits we're doing or big engine jobs, and just showing more light to it. The work we do with the community. I think that's huge because people like to see that. Like, oh, wow. The Batera Auto Group, they care about the city that they're in. They're helping students in schools, and, other dealers are doing it that are successful. So I think you need to get on, or you're going to be left in the dust, basically.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And before we move on to the others, I want to say, so when Felicia and I worked together, we kind of orchestrated this little takeover of the social media channels.
Yes.
Because we didn't feel that they were being, they were sales of cars that were on there. There was all stuff that we knew people didn't want to see. And so we managed to get ourselves added to the accounts and started posting stuff about the service department. And kudos to you, Felicia, because you have kept it up. I've been out of that group for quite a few years now, and you are still in there posting and keeping the service department at the forefront of people's minds.
Well, and that's a good point, because I think, you guys saw an opportunity, and most of the time the social media is managed by sales or is very sales focused, and just giving anyone advice on like, how do you take that over? Did you just go to them and say, hey,
yeah,
or
pretty much.
Hey, give that to me now. I can do better.
So it's developing relationships, which is what you have to do to take care of your customers, right? So we develop a good relationship with the IT person who controls the passwords to the account, and you get yourself put on the account, and then you just go from there. And sometimes you do things and ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah, that's my favorite line. I usually ask for forgiveness, not permission. So I don't know if that's good advice. It works for me, but
it could work.
Yeah,
it works. Gretchen, okay, so you do a great job with your LinkedIn.
Thank you.
I love how you just tell stories so great, and you like pull people in, and some of it I feel like is what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it's just so like not intense, but it's like it gets you thinking, like, yeah.
It's intense. Kaylee, it's intense. Yeah. Okay. It may be not intense for the reader, but sometimes it's intense for me, because there are things that I have shared that are so deeply personal to me, and my journey in automotive, my journey as a woman, as a single mom, as like all those different things. So they're stories, Kaylee, like you said, they are absolutely stories of my life, and putting that out there can be scary. But if you want to connect with people, and to what Dave just said, right, that building the relationship so that you can kind of manage to get added to the account and take over, right? You have to have that. You have to put that out there. You can't be afraid to be vulnerable. And the first time I did it was with a post on a photo, and the photo was in front of my car, and it skyrocketed. It was almost, I think, a year and a half ago. And I was absolutely overwhelmed at the amount of support that I got. And it was after that day, I was like, okay, wow, I can put myself out there. I can do this. So yeah, the word intense is absolutely the word. It's absolutely the word, but it's not being afraid to be vulnerable. And I wanted to note on something that Felicia said as well, like the community service part. I love that. I mean, for me, for LinkedIn to share with everyone out there the work that I do with Junior Achievement of South Florida, with what I call automotive financial literacy, all those different things. And then to see dealerships doing that and putting out there, because people, customers, women want to connect with people at the dealership. Anybody can do an oil change. Anybody can, replace air filters. But at the end of the day, I want to see the same person there. I love, Felicia, the way that you highlight the people in your store and how long they've been there and I know I'm going to see that person, right? And that's so important. Those relationships are so important.
It is. It humanizes it. What you were saying is, sharing people, sharing your stories, being vulnerable. That's how we connect. When you meet someone in person, you share stories about yourself. And, of course, it's fearful to share stories or put yourself out there because there are going to be people that probably aren't very nice, but you just block them. You block them and move on.
I get DMs all the time with not so very nice things. And I just okay, great. I don't even block them because I figure, if my story makes them upset in a kind of way, then okay, let them be upset. Right. But Kaylee, I feel like I know you. I feel like I know you and your journey, your pregnancy, your child, but I have never met you in person.
Isn't that crazy?
I
feel like I know you too.
Yeah, exactly. But it's through those stories. And I think it's wonderful. And thank you for the kind words because I feel the same about you when I read your posts as well.
Oh, thank you. But I want to get to Melissa too, because you are a producer of a podcast. You guys are social. Yeah. So talk about that. How is that?
Yeah, because our audience is different, right? So we struggled with where do we market ourselves with this whole new everything's online. We couldn't do Facebook. We're going more towards service managers, and it's harder to connect with that on Facebook. Everybody uses that for a personal thing. So we struggled. So how do we get our name out there? How do we market ourselves? And podcast it was, and it's been really great because it's not only put our name out there for clients, but also it's been a networking opportunity with other partners and other vendors that we've been able to partner up with. We've offered additional programs bringing on other vendors to piggyback off of the data that we give. We're able to have a whole list of networking people that we're able to send to our customers if they're looking for additional help beyond our data. But we wouldn't have been able to do any of that without the podcast. The podcast has opened it all up because it was just supposed to be a non-salesy, non-IntelliCheck type thing, but it really did lead us some great people.
Oh yeah. Podcasting is huge in our industry because it's just that content and just talking about what's going on because there's just not a lot of content out there to help and people in the industry. So
yeah. And 10 years ago, companies didn't converse with each other. We didn't meet companies that were almost considered maybe our rivals, right? But now we're having conversations with them and we're supporting one another on a podcast. Who knew that was ever going to happen?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. The biggest revolution that has come around from the podcasting is number one, it gives you a chance to talk to amazing people.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I had called all four of you and tried to get you onto a conference call at one time, it would never happen.
No.
Right. But we can do it in this format. And so you get to talk to incredible people. And to your point, Melissa, it doesn't matter that you could even be a direct competitor, right? You can still have a great conversation around the industry and around what do you do? What do I do? How do we do it differently? How could we possibly work together to help each other, to help our customers? And those are conversations that didn't happen a few years ago.
No. We have a whole list that we're putting on our website of other vendors that will help our clients with the data we give them. Because before we were just giving our clients this data and what are they doing with it? Do they know how to read it? They know how to get the best out of it. Yeah. Now here I have all these people that can help you with that. And it's just better for our clients. Right. The more you support one another in the industry, it's better for everyone.
It is. Yeah. I mean, I know for me hosting, I feel like I learn so much by doing my interviews. Like the audience learns, but I learn way more by doing the interviews. Yeah. There's
a whole parts of the industry I knew nothing about until the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other cool part too is you almost kind of feel like a celebrity. Like you feel like when you're doing the interviews, it almost feels like you're famous. You know, because almost before it was like only famous people did podcasts. Now anyone can do a podcast.
Yeah, I'm more behind the scenes with it, so I don't feel so famous. But yeah, so Brandon, our host, yeah, he's famous in my
He's
eyes.
famous, yeah. Oh man.
So
Okay.
Melissa, you brought up you brought up data,
Mhm.
data, however you pronounce that.
Yes.
I'm from Massachusetts, so
Yeah, how do you pronounce it? Data?
Data.
data.
I say data.
That's
Yeah,
what I
data.
said.
Data.
Okay.
Data.
Okay. We're all
right.
on the same page.
Okay.
So what would you say the dealerships, and I want to ask each one of you this because each one of you has a different perspective on the data itself. So what type of data do you find most useful for a dealership? And I'm gonna start in the middle with Gretchen. So you as a consultant, you're going in and that's initially that's what you have to look at is data before you get to a store.
Oh, yeah.
So how are you using data to look at stores?
I'm starting with their customer experience because I want to understand what they're delivering to their customers before I look at operational processes, before I talk to anybody. So it's those KPIs, those benchmarks around CSI, and actually seeing if I can dive into their CRM a little bit and really pull some reports out of there. Because for me, that's the most important thing to find out before someone in the dealership says to me, oh, well, we need to fix this. We have to fix this. It's like, but do you, right? Is that what the data is telling us? Are we actually making data-driven decisions? I'm with you, Melissa. I'm a complete data nerd. Give me a spreadsheet with 100,000 lines of data and where I can just cross over and I'm just like, I'm gonna mute. Hold on, Kaylee. I'm gonna mute myself, Dave, because it don't get me going on the conversation around data nerds.
All right, and but Melissa, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, well, of course, the data that I give to clients is the one that I'm going to promote. We give pricing data, right? Knowing what their competition is doing. We call around to their competition. We let them know what their prices are, what the competition is telling your customers when they're calling around. We also do customer service evaluations. What are your service advisors telling a customer? You can be standing in your service department listening to your advisor talk on the phone, but when you walk out, how are they really answering those calls? Are they, quoting the right prices? Are they trying to get that client to come in for an appointment? I think those are the two things: your pricing data, your local market, and your customer service that you're giving out are the three most important things.
Terrific. All right, and now Felicia, the in-store.
Yes.
data
So
opinion.
CSI, definitely CSI is basically seeing what the customers are saying, where we're lacking. I don't know if I need to implement any policies or if things aren't being done unless I look at that. I can see where are we for FFE, our follow-up, where do we compare to this area, to the US, as far as our OEM is considered. And they have, our survey is very lengthy, but it does break it down where I can look at all the indicators to see what we're lacking in, whether it's updating a customer, thoroughness of the work completed, anything like that. So it really breaks it down. So I look at that daily, and obviously I like my financial statements. We have Reynolds and Reynolds, so I do a lot of, I can see any report down to the nitty gritty, effective labor rate, hours per RO, the report card analysis report, seeing what technicians are recommending, what they're not recommending, down to the operation code. That's what I love doing that. I don't know about Excel sheets with 100 lines, but give me like a report from Reynolds and I love it. I want to look at every single thing and toggle between which technician, which advisor, what operations not being done. And that's the only system I've ever used. So I just love, I know in and out, I love it. And that's where I'm always looking to see and uncover what is being hidden because, humans like to hide things.
Yeah.
It's true.
And there is no hiding from the data
No.
when you start digging into those things, right? You can listen to a technician tell you that my recommendations per vehicle are down because the dispatcher gives me all new vehicles, and you
Mhm.
can pull up that multi-point inspection report to show the tech that actually the average mileage on the last 20 cars that you worked on was 87,212 miles. You
Yep.
didn't get all new cars, right? So
No,
what's
you didn't.
really going on? And
What's
you
really
can kind of dig down there a little further.
Yes. And for a parts perspective too, a tech, going like, you need to stock these parts. Okay, I stocked them. They're still sitting here.
Mhm.
Now they're obsolete. Thank you.
Oh man. We could go on and on about data.
Oh yeah.
So stick with data. And what are the advantages of knowing and understanding the data that you do have available to you? And Felicia, we'll stick with you on this.
I would say you stay ahead of the curve. You can see trends, you can fix things. And I'm a proponent for data, but being in the dealership, I will do a plug. And I'm also, you have to be on the floor with your people. You have to be in the shop, you have to be on the counter, because data is great, but it's sometimes after the fact, right? So I like to look at my data, but then also spend time, at least an hour every day on the counter with the advisors, walking around the shop, seeing what they're actually doing. So I do think data is great if you're looking at it, but also you need to be involved if you're in the dealership, like I am, actually seeing what they're doing. So you can maybe stop things before they, becomes a trend.
Yeah, so it's leading and lagging metrics, right? You need
Yes,
to
exactly.
the data is going to give you what did happen, but because
Yes.
you're out there on the desk, in the service drive, in the shop, you're kind of seeing things hopefully ahead of that data showing you that something bad happened.
Yeah.
And-
Melissa.
That's what makes Felicia a great leader, right? Being on the floor, not just looking at the data. And there's not many leaders that do that. So yeah, the data gives you what? It helps you make informed decisions. It optimizes your performance. The data is there for a reason. So understanding it and using it is what's going to make you succeed.
Gretchen, round us out.
Round us out. For me, it even with my experience with TPAs, OEMs, it's that risk management. So looking at the data actually helps me identify those potential risks and being like, okay, what do we have to do to proactively get around this so we don't fall into this chasm? And then Melissa, you had said something earlier to the competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's that competitive advantage.
Mm-hmm.
If I look at the data, it's like, what is happening here? What opportunities do we have? So not only to mitigate risk, but to uncover opportunities in which we can move forward and get past our competition that we may not even know about because we don't understand the data and we don't have people there to actually read it properly.
That's a great point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
Right.
have that all the time, Dave. They're like, we have all this data, but what do we do with it? I'm like,
Exactly.
give it to me. Let me look.
And the competitor advantage, I'm surprised how many people I've spoke to that said, I don't care what my competition is doing. It doesn't matter to me. And that shocks me because your customers are, especially nowadays, and the prices are going skyrocketing. People are calling around. Don't you want to know? Don't you want to have the confidence to know what your competition is doing, what they're telling your customers when they call around?
Yeah.
I think that's a social media thing, right? Because the influencers are going to tell you don't worry about the competition, you worry about you. That's
You absolutely have to worry about the competition. Yeah.
That's great in the gym, right?
Yeah.
Or when you're cooking or something. I don't need to worry about what anybody else is doing. But when I'm in business, I kind of need to know what somebody else is doing.
And I think it's Russell with Fixed Ops Marketing always says they have to drive by 16 different stores before they get to your dealership. And what are the chances they're not going to stop at one of those 16?
Yep.
Melissa, that's such a great point because the data will actually tell us exactly what dealerships they drive by, what their habits are, and I don't know how we should actually know what our competition is doing in order to capture that customer back into our AMA.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. That's it needs to not even matter what dealerships they're driving by. If you are paying attention and then delivering the message back to those customers,
Yeah.
then those dealerships are not even there to them, right?
Right.
They're going from their destination to your destination, and they're
Mhm.
not concerned with anything else.
Exactly.
I can tell you when I'm headed for ice cream at Dairy Queen, I don't see anything else. I go buy a lot of things. I don't see anything else. I'm headed for ice cream.
But I
Soft
think
serve
it
or
comes-
hard scoop? Oh,
Yeah.
It
well-
comes full circle to our previous conversation, right? If you have transparency and communication and
Mhm.
consistency, they're going to keep coming back to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Gretchen, so Dairy Queen, I don't know how far out in the country they go. It's soft serve.
It's all, isn't it all soft serve?
It's all soft
Yeah.
serve.
Yeah. I was able to go to Mr. Hendrick's Dairy Queen within the museum. It was amazing. But here in South Florida, we don't have it. We just have to go to Costco. For $2, you get a big old soft serve. Like the cup is this big. It's ridiculous. It's wonderful though. It's wonderful.
Costco soft
I may
serve.
start driving down there to get ice cream then.
Dairy Queen used to have hard, or what is it called? What did we just call it? Hard scoop?
Yeah, like a hard, like yeah. I years ago I used
They
to
used
work
to
in an
have
ice
that.
cream parlor. So yeah, it was like the hard scoop through 30 flavors, Baskin Robbins.
Me too, Gretchen. Yes, went to scoop school with Baskin Robbins.
Yes.
They have scoop school.
They have scoop school.
Yes.
I didn't
In
know.
little school you have to go to for like a week.
You gotta learn. You gotta learn how to scoop it properly. It rolls, you know.
Yeah, you can't just gouge into that ice cream. You
No,
have to
I was an
slice
ice cream girl as well, but it was at a local
Oh,
shop.
sure.
So that was my first job.
I
That
love
means
it.
you know how to make a milkshake.
I do, and waffle cones. We used to make our own waffle cones. So
Oh,
Yeah.
now I want ice cream.
Yeah, no,
Of
I know,
all the
making me
things
hungry.
people thought they were going to learn today, I don't think that was it.
we're gonna teach you how to scoop ice cream.
I did not. That was not my first job. I did not work with ice cream, but I did sandwiches.
Oh,
There you
Okay.
go.
Even better.
Yep.
Even
Yeah,
better.
I love
there
sandwiches.
definitely is a theme here. Yeah.
Yeah, Kaylee was a sandwich artist,
Yes.
right? Isn't that what they called the Subway
That's what
people
they
back
call-
then? Yep.
Subway. I think they still do call them sandwich art
Yeah.
because
Yep.
it is an art.
Yeah.
It is.
You have
That
to
was my
learn how
wife's
to-
first job was Subway. So
Really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that, or maybe
Yeah.
I did know that.
yeah, no, you probably didn't. I don't
didn't.
think I've ever
You
said
gotta
that.
pile everything.
But they make
Yeah,
it
there's-
different now. They don't like they used to cut the middle of the bread out.
Yeah.
Now they
Oh.
don't.
No, they
So-
don't. But they have the hinge cut now, and you have to layer there's a certain formula so that it closes, and a lot of people don't follow it. That's why I hate going to Subway.
Yeah,
'cause
they
do
don't
it
let
right.
you see the meat anymore. There's like they cover it so you can't see the meat. I don't
Oh, I
know.
know.
Yeah, why did they do that?
I don't know.
I
You
go
need
back
to
to
see the-
Jersey Mike's at this point. I'm like, I just go to Jersey Mike's because they've got the hinge cut. They do the thing.
Oh,
and-
Jersey Mike's is the best. All like we're talking sandwiches. Jersey Mike's is my favorite.
I swear, all the way.
Yes. I think it's lunchtime.
All right, now we're gonna get away from sandwiches and ice cream and get back to the show. Kaylee, guess what time it is? It is weekly stat time.
Yes.
The statistic of the week brought to you by Parts Edge. And this week it says women make up only 12.1 of automotive repair and maintenance roles, according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. And now that statistic is across dealerships and independent repairs, not just dealerships. That's across all repair and maintenance shops. Either way, it is a horrendously low number for us to have. And so our last segment is how do we open this industry up to more women? And I'm gonna read this. Mary Barra, who is CEO of GM right now, worked in several different areas of the company before she became the CEO. So how do we get those opportunities for women in the dealership? Gretchen, you mentioned you had to really fight to get yourself to that F&I office. Felicia, you had to fight to get yourself to that service manager, service director role. Melissa, you have come from the bottom up to almost the top role in your company. And actually, I would say the COO is the actual top role. The CEO is the
Well, thank
You're you're the one making the CEO look good.
Yeah.
we
So-
won't say that to her.
Operations is it. Operations it.
That's it.
Hard stop. Operations.
So starting with you, Melissa, what do you think are some of the things that we need to do to start making this industry inviting for women to want to join and want to work in?
Well, I think shows like this do the trick, right? Bring awareness and visibility to other women that are doing it and succeeding at it and enjoying it. I mean, I think it's safe to say we all enjoy our roles very much, and it shows by the way we talk about it. So if you can make it more visible to other women and make it look like they can do it.
Yeah, that's certainly part of it, right? Is we
Mhm.
have to put it on the options board. We just
Yeah.
talked a ton about food, right? This automotive needs to be on the menu board of careers for women to choose from when
Right.
when they're trying to decide what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Go ahead,
going to
Kate.
schools and doing, and a lot of what Gretchen is doing is, yeah, and talk about that, Gretchen, because I think that's huge.
Mm-hmm. You're muted, Gretchen.
Oh, she's muted.
I muted from earlier, Dave. I told you. I'll just get going. Yeah, no, Kaylee, you're absolutely correct. So for me, like there's so much work being done within the dealerships, within things like this with podcasts and conferences, conventions, all those different items that I have chosen to take my time and I go to the schools. So I work with middle schools and high schools, and there is nothing more fulfilling than going in for a career day or working with them on mentoring, young ladies and having conversations, talking about automotive financial literacy, which is that series I just got done with, Kaylee, and having the young ladies come up to me afterwards, 15, 16 years old, and being like, how do I do what you do? I want to do what you do. And I'm like, you do? Okay, right. All right, yeah, let's talk about that. And exposing, young girls and young ladies to what the automotive industry can be, and that it's unfortunately not a large barrier to get into, right? I came in as a title clerk, right? Felicia, you would come in as a greeter. A lot of the young ladies that I work with are from a different SES. So it's important to make sure that those things are offered and that the trades are understood. So that's where technician work comes in as well, because we need more female technicians. We need to load the bench. Our talent pool is shallow right now, and we know it. So going into the schools and doing that type of work, really, it just makes my heart happy, because I know that I am molding that future of women in automotive. Even though it might be 5 years, 10 years down the road, I have a more of a futuristic mindset to say, okay, let's build the bench and let's do it now, right? Within the schools.
Absolutely.
And Gretchen, you so another stat within that already small percentage of
Mhm.
women that are in the automotive industry,
Mhm.
12% of that small group already are female technicians.
Mm.
So you take an already small number in the
Yeah.
1.2 million people that are employed in automotive,
Yeah.
and reduce that down to 12% of technicians. I don't even know how many technicians are in the United States, but
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing working with the young ladies and explaining to them like all the different opportunities available in automotive outside of the dealership and just in so many areas.
yeah,
And
I think
how
that's
do-
part of the problem. So sorry, go ahead, Kayla.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say, how do we get those electives back into the high schools? Because when I was in high school, we had a body shop, we had metals, and I took it because I didn't want to take calculus. So
Mhm.
I knew I wanted trade. So, I mean, obviously I didn't become a welder, but like, how do we do that? Because I'm pretty sure the high school I went to doesn't have those programs anymore.
Mm-mm.
There is, I know Junior Achievement of South Florida, the Junior Achievements, they support the trades. A friend of mine I was speaking to the other day, he just partnered with Winata, right, up in Washington, right, for the trades. It feels like that might be a little too far for, down the road. We need to pull it forward, right? But having dealerships, automotive, fixed ops people partnering with those schools and creating those programs, the automotive schools are out there. Tech schools are out there. They want to partner. It's just interesting to me that more large dealer groups don't get as involved as they should. Yeah.
Right. Felicia, to round it out.
Hello. So I also do work with high schools, not middle schools, but we do a co-op with 3 different trade schools in the area. And I think I've had 6 students so far. One of them was a female, so that was amazing. And I had her for about 1.5 years, and now she's working not here, but she knows somebody who has their own shop. So that's where she's working. She's still a technician, which is awesome. But I do think so when I go to the trade schools, one of them in particular is really great as far as they run it just like a dealership per se, like a service department where they have somebody working like a parts counter and they call for parts and they have like a writer. And that's what I think needs to be discussed more in the schools, is that it's not just technicians. Cause I feel like at trade schools, it's like, be a technician, but there's no like, there's parts advisors, right? There's service advisors, there's finance managers, there's salesmen, saleswomen. Like there's so many different avenues that are never discussed that I see personally. I didn't know anything. When I came in here, I didn't know there was all these jobs at a dealership. Like I had no idea that there were so many moving bodies and so many different opportunities here. And so it did take my dealership. It took a while of me persuading them, like, let's get involved in co-ops. And the reason they didn't want to is just the risk factor, right? They're young children and things can happen, and insurances and vehicles and stuff like that. But now we've been doing it now for about 3 years, and it's an amazing part of my job. I love going there. I go to their senior nights, I watch them graduate. If they stay with me long enough, and I've had more success than failures in it. And I see other dealerships in the area and, they're like, oh, I don't want to do it. It's a lot of work, and it is, but I have more of the mindset of like down in the future. Right. And I do think that women are more nurturing, and, as far as I can take the time with them, and I don't have a problem, like if it doesn't work out, or sitting and talking with them, like molding their future. Right. A lot of the students that I've come across, they don't even have parents really that are involved in their life. So it's nice to be able to provide a place for them to feel comfortable, for them to learn, for them to grow, and hopefully have this as a career, whether it's a technician or here or somewhere else, or if it's a writer. We have one student that's now a parts advisor, and he's like running the whole back counter, and he's amazing, and so I think we just need to talk about it more and get involved in the schools, but also share that there's more than just technicians. There's other jobs you can do in a dealership. There's a lot of moving parts, and we all need each other for it to work. So I would say definitely that, and podcasts like this. Like when I go to a OEM training, I'm usually the only woman there. There might be one other woman out of 50. So I don't see a lot of women. I don't interact with a lot of women that are in the automotive industry. It's usually, just me and a couple other women. But so this is awesome. This is amazing. It makes me feel not alone. It's hard I'm not a single mom, but I have 3 kids, and to do this and to be a manager and all, it's just it's different. I am different than the average male in the automotive industry. So this has been amazing. So thank you all. It was great to hear you all. And I hope more women will join automotive industry in whatever, job position it looks like for them.
Yeah, I think your point is well taken about women being more nurturing, and you're taking that from the standpoint of being able to nurture that relationship with people coming into the industry. But even women as service advisors, as parts advisors, they're more nurturing with the customers. They're also typically much more methodical than us squirrel-brained men. And so in a parts department, a woman on the parts counter typically can work through an issue of, rather than just, it's not in stock. They can work through an issue and actually, figure out like, oh, but we still have to fix a customer's car, and can methodically take you through that. As opposed to us who just go, it's not in stock. and
Get
we
out of
move
my
on.
face. Yeah.
Your dispatcher.
Order.
Yeah, a woman as a dispatcher is incredible. I mean, that's
Yes.
yeah.
Yep. Perfect thing. And you're absolutely right. The women need to know that there are way more jobs in automotive other than salesperson at the front of the house or technician in the back. There's I don't even know how many positions. If I had to guess, I would say there were 30 different positions in your average dealership that somebody could work at. And for all different skill levels, all different interests, whether you're a Gretchen data nerd that wants to just stare at spreadsheets, it doesn't matter what you actually want to do. You can find it within the dealership.
Yeah.
So Felicia, Gretchen, Melissa, thank you so much for being our guest today. Kaylee, thank you for being my co-host. It was absolutely amazing having you all here. I know everybody watching got a great education. For anybody who did miss the show or who wants to watch it again, it is available on demand. You can reach out to anybody here for a link on demand, and it will also be replayed Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, as a LinkedIn event, so you'll be able to just sign up there and you can watch it again there. Again, thank you everybody for being here. We truly appreciate your time, and we will see you. I won't see you on a recorded thing on Tuesday, but I will see you live next Thursday. Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.